Namaste. Thank you everyone for joining us. Today is session number 22 of Good Living Practices, where we explore all the practices and tips and tricks that Dr. Ram Rao is prescribed in his best-selling book, Good Living Practices. We'll explore how we can adopt and adapt the Ayurveda, yoga, spiritual, and meditation, selfless service, all these things into our lives to make our lives better. And so we have been doing this for the last, I'm happy to say, for the last almost 2 years. And so it is something we are happy to bring to you. And on behalf of NBHC and Dr. Ram Rao and Padma Rao, I'm happy to bring this over to you. This is session number 22. And today we will discuss, and I'm very eager to know the, what Dr. Rao has to say about brain fog associated with long travel. We have heard about jet lag and everything, but brain fog associated with long travel. And these days, especially after COVID, we have been going to India. It's as if someone has let us out of a cage. We have been doing a lot of traveling and everything, and when we come back, we do feel tired, and it is hard to get back into the routine. So I am eager to know what tips Ram has for us, the GLP tools to overcome this brain fog. And last time, this is session number 2 on this same topic. And for all the other topics, our communication expert, Sid Kaur, has uploaded the past sessions in our YouTube channel. So if at all you want to, look back at it or catch up on some of the old sessions, please visit our YouTube channel. And without much further ado, Ram, looking forward to what you have to help clear this brain fog.
Okay, great. Thank you, Radhika. Yeah. Thank you, everybody, for coming today. And good morning to you all, and good morning to the others, or good day to the others in the other time zones. And as Radhika mentioned, welcome to the 22nd session of Good Living Practices. And Radhika, just to mention, we are 2 sessions short of 2 years.
Yes.
So it's been a very successful 2 years of giving these Good Living Practice talks.
Yes.
So as you're all aware by now, Good Living Practices are tools or interventions that keep the body, mind, and emotions functioning as one unit. And this is very much required in order to experience optimal health and wellness. And as part of that series today, we'll be focusing on brain fog, especially long travel associated brain fog. This is actually a sequel to the previous one where I spoke about brain fog in general and what happens when you have negativity associated with brain fog. And then there were a few people who talked about brain fog that comes with long travel. And so I thought I'll address that so that by the end of this talk today, you will have a better perspective on what are the triggers for brain fog, especially after a long travel, and what you can do, that is preventative steps before you embark on a long travel. So with that, let me go ahead and start sharing the slides here. Okay, I hope you can see the slides. So Good Living practice tools are tools or interventions that keep the body, mind, and emotions functioning as one unit in order for us to experience optimal health. And in the last 20 sessions, we discussed several tools, several tips that constitute the Good Living practices. And in fact, in a couple of sessions, I even provided tools, practical tools for us all to implement these tools for about a month, for about 30 days, for our own health and wellness. Yeah. And in the last session, we explored brain fog and the consequences of brain fog. Now, in today's session, we'll continue this talk. We'll discuss the part 2 series of brain fog, but today's brain fog series will focus on long travel associated brain fog. All right. The talk today will focus on long travel and travel-associated brain fog, consequences of brain fog, and I'll also provide a subset of practical tips in order for you to manage travel-related brain fog. Just let me clarify one little term here. So jet lag is a very loose term that we all use whenever we travel. Okay, it's actually a colloquial term for long travel associated brain fog. So jet lag is actually a brain fog. Okay, it's just that we don't use a scientific term. We use the term jet lag. So brain fog, in turn, is an umbrella term in order to understand, or it takes into account all the alterations in the brain structure and function, resulting in slow or sluggish thinking, okay, feeling confused, feeling spacey, feeling disorganized, or feeling displaced. So this is brain fog. Okay, it's an umbrella term, and so under these consequence of brain fog, people may have different kinds of symptoms. Okay, some people may experience slow or sluggish thinking. Some people feel confused. Some people feel spacey. Some people feel disorganized. Some people feel displaced. You may have one or more of these symptoms. Okay, and brain fog affects the ability to think. It affects the ability to have a focus or attention. There may also be mental fatigue, and you may also notice that you have an inability to put your thoughts into words or actions. So brain fog is actually a classical example of fractionated living, where the body, mind, and function act as though they are independent. That is, they function as independent entities. And this kind of a feeling that you have, the symptoms that you have, like sluggish thinking, feeling confused, spacey, disorganized, or feeling displaced, also comes up, notice it comes up with long travel as well. Now, in the last session, we talked about the various triggers for brain fog that could be pathological or non-pathological. We talked about characteristics like disturbed sleep, daytime tiredness and fatigue, difficulty to concentrate and function properly, unexplained aches and pains, and gastrointestinal problems. All right, not feeling hungry, or feeling like vomiting, or feeling like you're bloated when you do not have much of food. So all these things come under the term of brain fog. Now, all these symptoms may be seen even when you have a long travel as well. Okay, so even though we talk of it as jet lag, this is actually a loose term, and under this term, you will actually notice that you all are experiencing some or all of these symptoms that I just explained. And what's very interesting is, the more time zones you cross during a travel, the more prolonged and the more travel-related brain fog symptoms that you will notice. Okay, and not only that, not only will you not have it, you will have it, but also with that, the more time zones you cross, what happens is the longer it takes to overcome these brain fog symptoms. So let's say if you're traveling from San Francisco to India and back, it may take anywhere from 6 to 9 days or 10 days to fully recover and to function normally. All right. And what happens is, brain fog is generally worse when you lose the sleep time. Okay. And the thing is, so whether you're traveling from San Francisco to India, or whether you're traveling back from India to San Francisco, you are losing your sleep time. Think about that. Okay. So for example, now let's say you're traveling from India to the US. What happens is, your travel, whether it is from anywhere in India, your international travel always is somewhere between 1 a.m. to 5 a.m. All right. So which means you're actually losing sleep time. Okay. The same thing happens when traveling from here to India. Okay. Whatever airlines you take, whether you're going via East Coast, whether we are going via Atlantic, or whether you're going via Pacific, Trans-Pacific, either side you go, you are actually traveling in the middle of the day, which means you're actually losing all your sleep time. So the more sleep time that you lose, the greater is the brain fog. Okay, and this loss of sleep time actually is the main consequence or main cause for brain fog. Not only that, it's not only sleep time that is a cause. The older you are, the greater or the more intense the brain fog. Okay, and therefore recovery may take even longer. Okay, so two main things that affect your brain. when you travel at a long distance. In addition to the loss of sleep time and in addition to age, the other factors that can come into play are things like light exposure, okay, meal times, social engagement, and daily activities. All these, the reason being that all these are the ones that regulate your circadian rhythms, what we call the clock or the clock functions in your body. And all these get disturbed, okay? So your exposure to light and your sleep, your meal times, your social engagement or the social hours that you put in, your daily activities that you normally are used to, okay, all these get disturbed in addition to your sleep time and in addition to your age. And so overall, you're looking at a bunch of events that go awry or that go out of balance. And these are the ones that result, these are the main triggers for your brain fog. And long airplane travel will involve irregular sleep, irregular meals, okay, prolonged sitting, okay, you're almost sitting for 16 to 18 hours. Hypoxia, even though they maintain an ambient temperature and oxygen levels inside the plane, but still the fact that you're cruising at an altitude of 30 to 40,000 feet above sea level, you are actually creating an artificial state of hypoxia. And of course, with that, there's a generalized feelings of emotional disturbance. Fear and worry, anxiety is there for everybody because you do not know what's going to happen. You're worried or you're fearful about what's going to happen when you reach your destination, okay? So all these throw off your regular patterns, your circadian rhythms, your biological clocks, okay? Your biological clocks are the ones that determine what you eat, when you wake up, when you exercise, what your sleep patterns are. So all these are get disturbed, and this results in a loop of brain fog that takes several days to overcome. Okay, in addition, remember, even though the oxygen levels are always sufficient in the planes, but what happens is high altitude flights makes it very difficult to saturate our blood with the oxygen. So even though there is enough oxygen, your oxygen levels are not saturating the blood. The blood is not saturated with oxygen, okay, because what happens is the cabin pressure is always low. So in such moments, what happens is the oxygen carrying cells, the red blood cells, do not perform their functions adequately, okay? And so what happens is a lot of the tissues that require oxygen continuously, for example, the brain, okay? The brain cannot function without, it needs to function normally, it needs a continuous supply of oxygen at ambient levels. And what happens is during long travels, the oxygen levels are not ambient to the brain. And so the brain is always deprived of a sufficient amount of oxygen. So what happens is when the amount of oxygen decreases, especially for now, add to that passengers who have issues with heart, cardiovascular conditions, people who have issues with lungs, respiratory conditions, people who have lung diseases, all these add on to your low levels of oxygen, okay? And that's the reason why with long travels, even healthy individuals, not just people with morbid conditions, but even healthy individuals, they have a lot of issues with lungs, with heart, with vision, shortness of breath, and so on and so forth. Now, in addition, there's a close relationship between food, sleep, and brain fog. Think about it. Diet and sleep, they profoundly have an effect on our circadian rhythms, the 24-hour biological clock, okay? And these changes in diet and sleep profoundly affect not only your circadian rhythm, but also is a main cause for brain fog, and your ability to overcome brain fog is also affected because of your diet and sleep. Now, remember one thing. When you go on a long haul flights, meals are served, no doubt, but no one knows when the food was prepared, how long it stayed in the cold storage before it gets into the plane, okay? Now, this was, now the part of my talk that I'm giving today actually was a part of a conference, a seminar that I attended where I gave this talk. And so I had to do a lot of research on what exactly happens when you travel on long haul flights with regard to food and oxygen and all that. So that's the reason why I was able to put all these slides together. So this is what happens. For safety purposes, airplanes do not have stove tops or deep fryers. So food is never cooked in the airplane. Furthermore, the air pressure inside the plane is an impediment for preparing fresh meals on board. Hence, food is never cooked fresh on an airplane. Okay, what you're actually getting as food is actually meals that are prepared in advance at a catering company. Okay, they are packed immediately in insulated containers and then they are flash frozen. So once it is frozen, it retains its shelf life for a longer period of time. And then what happens is, prior to your airplane departure, these pre-packed frozen meals are then transferred and stored in the airplane's galley. So what happens just before 1 to 2 hours of once the flight takes on, and then prior to serving the meals, 1 to 2 hours prior to serving the meals, the food is actually heated in convection ovens that is present in the plane. Okay, these are convection ovens that actually blow hot air continuously around these frozen trays. Okay, it approximately takes about 20 to 25 minutes for the convection hot air to reheat the food. But what happens is, because the food is covered in aluminum tray and aluminum foil, not every part of the food is properly thawed or properly heated. In most cases, it is sufficient, but it is not complete. And so what happens is, you're actually receiving the food that is maybe completely thawed, but it's not completely heated. So that's number one. And so what happens is, it's a less ideal condition, which results in a lot of stomach issues. So a lot of people experience stomach issues. They may say, I had a fresh food, meatless or vegan or Jain food or vegetarian food, and yet I had issues. And this is one of the reasons, because it was not proper. So it's not properly cooked. It's partly frozen, partly thawed, and even some of the areas of the food is not properly heated. Another issue is the chance for meals to become dry because of high altitude. So as you go higher and higher altitude, the air pressure is lower. And so what happens is, this causes the meal to become dry. And airline chefs have noticed that. So what they do is, in order for the food to not go dry, what happens is they cover the food in fluid. Okay, and the fluid appears as extra cream or extra gravy, or potato-based entrees that are mashed until they become runny, or sandwiches or pizzas that are covered in extra sauce. Now, these techniques are very good. These are discovered by airline chefs, okay? And I actually spoke to several airline chefs in order to prepare for not this lecture, but the lecture that I gave at an international conference. And so what these airline chefs do is, they actually cover your food with extra sauce and extra cream. Now, these techniques may help to keep the food from drying, but the problem is, because of extra cream and extra stuff that they add, it can have a deleterious effect on our guts, okay? Now, in addition to the high altitude, in addition to the dry air, the pressurized indoors, the loud engine noise, and the tight cabins that we're looking at, all have a tremendous impact on our sense of taste and smell. Very, very important point. And when I pointed this out at the conference, airline chefs, there were from some few airline chefs that actually attended my conference, and they took into account all these things. So let me repeat that again. The combination of dry air, the combination of pressurized interiors, the loud noise, and the tight cabins all have a tremendous impact on our sense of food, sense of smell and taste. Okay, and more noticeably, it suppresses or represses the ability to taste sweet and salty foods. Very interesting. So at that high altitude, okay, because of all these factors, your sense of taste and your sense of smell is reduced. And so what happens is, in order for the food to taste the same as what it is on the ground, the airline caterers, what they do is, they increase the salt and sugar content on your food by 30%. Think about it. So for people who have issues with diabetes, or people who who are trying to manage their sugar levels, or people who are hypertense, who are hypertension, having issues of hypertension or high blood pressure. Imagine now if you're eating that food. The food is not normal. Okay, it is 30% increase in salt and sugar levels only because it suits the palate at that air pressure, as though we are eating at the ground level. Okay. Unfortunately, what happens is this excess of sugar and salt together with the dry air can leave a passenger feeling bloated, feeling puffy, and it has a tremendous impact on the brain as well. Now, it's the same principles applies whether you're eating candies, whether you're eating sugar-laden foods. That may spike up your energy levels initially, but it will leave you more irritable and it will leave you more restless once you deplane. Okay. Now, what happens exactly is because the dry atmosphere in the plane and because of the claustrophobic conditions, the gut actually is asking for more food. Okay, but because of the suppression in the ability to taste and smell, you're in a the gut is in a confused state. On one hand, you want to eat, but on the other hand, you feel as though you've eaten too much. And so what happens is, because of that, the brain continuously tricks you into wanting more. Okay, you feel hungry more. And that's the reason why the tendency to snack is very high when you're in a long haul travel. Think about it. Think about the times when every 1 hour you try to get up, you try to stretch, you go for something to eat, you ask for some snacks. And in planes and in flight like Emirates and Qatar and United and all that, they actually have a lot of snacks out there. They have juices, they have snacks, everything for you to keep yourself busy. But remember one thing, that frequent snacking, that requires for the stomach to keep pumping insulin. And the more insulin is produced, what happens is you have those insulin spikes. And those insulin spikes, together with improper sleep, improper timing, and all the other factors like dry air and pressurized interiors, can affect your brain function and your heart function and your kidney functions to a very bad level. Okay, over time, what happens is it affects your hunger genes, it affects your satiety genes, and it affects your sleep cycle. And along with that, prolonged sitting, you are opening now the doors to an unlimited brain fog. Okay, so now the question is, why? What do you do now? So now that you have a general feeling as to why you have brain fog, the question is, what do you do? What do you do before you travel? What do you do during your travel? And what do you do post-travel? Okay, so here are some tips that I'm giving you, which you can incorporate. So let's say 48 hours prior to your travel. So 2 days prior to your travel, go easy on your diet. This is the best time for you to follow intermittent fasting or prolonged fasting. So what is intermittent fasting? Intermittent fasting is where 48 hours prior to travel, try to make sure that you're having only 3 meals a day. Breakfast at 9 a.m., lunch at 12, and dinner, try to finish your dinner by 6 or 6:30 p.m. Okay, so now what is happening is, because you're finishing your dinner by 6 or 6:30 p.m., and then you're going to have your breakfast only at 9 a.m. the next day, you are having what I call a 12/3 cycle. A 12/3 cycle is 12 hours of prolonged fast and 3 hours of gap between your dinner and sleep. 3 to more than 3 hours of gap between your dinner and sleep. And this, if you can expand the numerator, instead of 12 hours of fasting, if you can expand it to 12 to 15 hours or 18 hours of fasting, which will come. Let's say if you have dinner by 6 o'clock and then you have your breakfast next day morning only at 9 or after 9, you're giving a fasting time of 15 hours. If you skip your breakfast and have only lunch, then you're having an 18 hours gap. So this kind of a 48 hour of intermittent fasting prior to your travel is extremely good to cope with the brain fog that may come up once your travel starts. Okay, so that's intermittent fasting. Let's say you are not interested in intermittent fasting, but are interested in prolonged fasting. What is the prolonged fasting? Prolonged fasting is 48 hours prior to your travel, just have 2 meals. Lunch at 11 and dinner at 6. Keep these timings for 2 days prior to your travel. Okay, so you're restricting yourself to only 2 meals, and which means then you're fasting for almost 17 to 18 hours between your dinner and next day lunch. Okay. Along with this prolonged fasting or intermittent fasting, stay away from a highly spiced, heavy fatty food. You don't want to have heavy fatty food, so no creams, no extra cheeses, no extra fats in your food. Instead, try to take a lot of veggies, lightly spiced soups, and fruits. A combination of fruits and veggies and lightly spiced soups is the best way to incorporate or to have as your meal plan. Okay, so, and why are we going in this direction? The reason we are going in this direction is because 48 hours prior to travel, you are trying to keep your tummy as limited as possible. In the sense, you're actually keeping an empty stomach. Okay, the longer the more your tummy is empty before you travel, the better you are with your brain fog and the ability to overcome brain fog. Okay. Now, during this 48 hours of travel, 48 hours of pre what I call intervention period, you can take a lot of fluids. Okay, you can try to take a lot of warm water. Remember, in one of your sessions, I talked about the FCC tea, fennel coriander cumin tea. FCC tea is the best tea. Or you can even have the super spice, where along with FCC, we have added some more spices. Go back to the session 19 and you'll see that where I've given the ingredients. So those two teas are very good, okay, that you can take without any sugar, that you can take between your fasting periods. Okay. In addition to all that, please ensure that you have a very good bowel movement each day prior to your travel. So 48 hours prior to your travel, make sure that you have emptied your bowels, because if you are constipated and you travel with that constipated body, you're going to have a lot of problems. So ensure that you have emptied your bowels, ensure that you have good fasting period, ensure that you have prolonged fasting, ensure that you have at least 2 or 3 meals period. Don't try to snack in between. Okay. The reason why bowel movement is very much necessary is because what happens when you travel to high altitudes, because of the what we call the dry air pressure or dry air pressurized atmosphere, there's always a tendency to be constipated. Okay, so you don't want to end up traveling with a constipated body. Okay, because then it would further put you into a long zone of constipated period. So make sure that you empty your bowels before you travel, and then try to do all these things I'm suggesting. Then you won't have the period of constipation at all during or after your travel. Now, in addition to that, try to free your brain and mind free of emotions. Try to see that you're going to have a good travel. Okay, don't carry work-related issues in your brain, because those are going to cause more issues with your brain. Okay, and keep yourself well hydrated. The more you hydrate yourself, the better. The more you urinate before you travel, the better. Okay. In addition to all this, try to oleate your body. So keep massaging your body with any kind of massage oil. It prevents you from dehydration. Remember, as we travel 30,000 feet, 40,000 feet above the level, okay, you're going to have dry air, and that compounded with a normal skin will cause more dryness. So make sure that you are well massaged. So try to apply a lot of oil on your body. In fact, you can even oil your body, massage your body well with oil just before you travel as well. Okay, so these are all indications that you need to do prior to your travel. Now, during your travel, make sure that you're well hydrated. Okay, fluids will prevent you from getting dehydrated. As you climb the altitudes, the air gets thinner, so this will show up in the body as dehydration. So that's the reason why we always say, even though your travel comes with free drinks, please try not to get involved with alcoholic drinks. Alcoholic drinks will cause more dehydration. Okay, stay away from sweetened beverages. Stay away from ice cold drinks. This will further compound the brain fog. Okay, instead try to take warm teas. I always go for, not with sugar, but I always try to take warm tea. Warm tea is very good. These days they carry all kinds of herbal tea packets that you can take with them. You can tell them, or you can take with you, and then ask for hot water. When I travel to India, whether it's Emirates or Qatar or whichever airline, the first few times when I ask for warm water, okay, they are surprised because nobody asks for warm water or hot water. And they say, be careful, go back to your seat, we will bring the hot water, because they don't want you to burn yourself when you're moving around with the hot water cups, okay? And then what happens is after 2 or 3 such situations, they realize that both Padma and I ask for warm water or hot water. So they'll actually come to you and they'll ask you, do you want hot water? So they get used to the fact that there are a couple of passengers that are used to taking hot water. So hot water, if you can carry with you some herbal spice tea packets, just dip that and drink that. Try to hydrate yourself with a lot of hot water and or hot spice tea or herbal teas. Try to minimize your food intake. I know it is, you would say, how when you're getting free food, why not? I give you the reasons why you're not, why that food can be deleterious. So try to minimize the food intake. Doesn't mean that you should totally starve, but go, try to minimize yourself in the number of meals you take, because they'll keep giving you all kinds of foods, but you try to minimize your intake. Any beverage that is served hot is good, okay? So hot beverages are very good. Cold beverages, try to stay away from that. And then try to stretch the plane. I always like to prefer aisle seat. The reason being that the minute the plane takes off and then when they say it is safe to remove your seatbelt, I'm spending half of my journey only stretching or going back to the back part of the plane where there's a little bit of space available, and I do all my stretches there. People are surprised to see me doing all kinds of stretches, but that's how I do. I keep walking back and forth. Half of my travel I only spend in stretching myself. And as I said, go to the far end of the plane. There's always some space. So for every 2 hours that you spend sitting, make sure that you're stretching for 30 minutes. 30 minutes of stretches for every 2 hours that you spend sitting on the flight. Okay, so this is during the flight. Okay, now what happens after you reach your destination? After you reach your destination, can you please, just because you feel hungry, don't rush for food. I have seen a lot of people going for those. I mean, especially when you're reaching India, you're now exposed to all kinds of food, especially street foods. Please try to control your senses, sensory appetites, okay, your 5 senses. My suggestion is try to maintain that fast period for 2 days. I know my mom and my cousins or my relatives, they're all surprised as to why I'm keeping away from food for 2 days. And I'll tell them, I'll say, give me a rest period of two days, because I'm not going to eat a lot of food. So that 2 days after you reach your destination, try to maintain that fasting period. Okay. What happens is when you maintain that fasting period for 2 days after you reach your destination, whether it's San Francisco or whether it's India or whether anywhere, whatever is your destination, that allows you to overcome your brain fog. Okay. And then once you finish your 2-day period of fasting, follow your dietary period. Make sure that you eat properly with your timings. And even though you're very tired, even though your brain is confused, your jet lag, try not to sleep during the daytime. Okay, that's one way to make sure that your circadian rhythm or your sleep cycle comes back to normal. So don't sleep in the daytime. Try to sleep in the nighttime itself. In fact, I would suggest try to go to bed early in the evening, say by 6:30 or 7. Try to go to bed. Okay, that way what happens is you're actually provoking your sleep cycle much earlier. And then try not to schedule a lot of work things for the first 2 or 3 days. Anticipate that you're going to have your jet lag symptoms and try to not overbook, okay, on your first few days of once you reach your destination. Budget enough time for sleep, okay, and try to keep a buffer schedule so that, in case you're not feeling well, you don't have to worry about going to work or trying to work from home or whatever. And try to maintain a moderately less spiced food during these 2 days after you reach your destination. Continue taking the fennel, coriander, cumin tea. Very good to overcome the jet lag. And one of the best ways to overcome jet lag, whichever destination you are in, try to soak yourself in the sun. Okay, I'm not saying to exposing yourself at midday sun, but early morning sun between 7 and 9, try to expose yourself by going for long walks, or the evening sun, try to go for a long walk. The more you spend your time in the sun, the more easier it is to overcome the jet lag. And then once you reach your destination, please have a regular physical exercise, the walking, going to the gym, whatever you do, breathing exercise. We already did one of the tools for GLP was pranayama practices. Try to engage yourself in breath practices. All these will, because what happens is the more consciously you breathe pranayama practice, the more oxygen you're going to absorb. The more oxygen you absorb, the greater is the tendency for the tissues and brain to overcome the jet lag, or what I call the brain fog. Okay, so remember, your body will eventually adjust to the new time zone. Okay, but these tips will ensure that you are adjusting much faster. Okay, and try to restrict your caffeine intake once you reach your destination, at least the first couple of hours. I mean, the first 48 hours. Okay, I know caffeine can boost your alertness. Okay, but there are other ways to boost it, not caffeine. Okay, so because too much caffeine can actually leave you jittery. Okay, and it can linger in your system for a longer period, which means then you're going to have sleep issues. So try not to boost your alertness by giving caffeine. Instead, try to soak yourself in sun, try to breathe pranayama practices, try to go for a walk. Okay, try to engage more sleep hours. All these will naturally put your brain back to action. You don't need caffeine to boost your system. All right. So to conclude, brain fog is an umbrella term that encompasses a lot of structural changes, brain changes, slow or sluggish thinking, confusion, spacey, disorganized, inability to speak, lack of focus, lack of attention, issues with memory, issues with planning, language issues, words don't come easily. All these are nothing but brain, what we call a general brain fog. It's basically the brain, the ability of the brain to not to talk to your body or to dissociate itself from your body. Okay, it's a classical example of the brain and the mind and the body not functioning as one unit. This is seen with long. There are other factors, but long travel is also one of the factors that can trigger brain fog, resulting in disturbed sleep, spaciness, tiredness, lack of focus, unexplained aches and pains, GI problems. And I give you a subset of GLP tools. The tools include intermittent or prolonged fasting, mindful eating, exercise, oleation, massaging your body with oil, breath practices in order for you to overcome travel-associated brain fog. During a travel, I mean, prior to the travel, during a travel, and post-travel. So hopefully with these tips, I hope whenever you have, let me stop the sharing here. Whenever you have an incoming long travel, I hope once you follow these practices, you'll have a better and safe travel. All right. So with that, let me conclude here and then I'll take your questions.
Thank you very much, Ram. I mean, like that was really eye-opening to get those tips and how we can actually normalize or carry over what we're doing on a daily basis, even with our travel. Couple of questions actually. The oil massage, is that more like how I want to wrap my head around how that is that helps. Is it like a lubricant because we're sitting for long periods of time? Is it I mean, like, how does that help? And would sesame oil or coconut oil or olive oil, any of those oils that you have normally recommended for oil massage, will that work as well? I mean, like,
yeah. So let me answer it this way. Number one, you don't want to soak yourself in oil because obviously you don't want to travel with oil dripping down your skin. But yes, you can use a little bit of oil and massage your entire body, and then make sure that you do that prior to a travel. During a travel, if you can carry oil with you, that's fine. In a small container that can easily pass through security, not an issue. But a lot of people don't have. They have issues carrying oil. So I would suggest any kind of skin moisturizer is good. Try to go for a skin moisturizer that has more of organic ingredients, that has a lot of essential oils. Okay, so try to during your travel itself, every 6 hours, I would suggest applying the moisturizer or the oil on your hands, on your feet, your knees, especially your eyes and ears, you can apply. Okay. The reason being that, as I said, number one, as you climb higher and higher altitudes, even though they have what they call a pressurized chamber, the combination of dry air and the pressurized chamber will leave you dry. No matter whoever you are, whatever body constitution you have, everybody will have dryness, because that's the atmosphere we are in.
Right.
And that dryness can cause a lot of discomfort. For some people, it may not, but a lot of people will have a lot of discomfort with that. So one way to ensure that you don't have the discomfort is to make sure that you moisturize yourself very well. You moist your body very well. And yes, you can definitely, if you're into oils, you can definitely use coconut oil is the best. Sesame oil is the best. Sesame oil may smell a little bit. Coconut oil doesn't smell a lot. Coconut oil is very good.
Right.
You can even add some rose essential oil to that. If you're not into oils, don't worry, but use, as I said, any organic ingredient based moisturizer is also very good prior to your travel, during your travel, and post travel. Once you reach your destination, because you're going to be at your home, whether it's your home or whether it's somebody else's home, it doesn't matter. So you can always apply oil. Okay, that really helps, and it overcomes your brain fog much early.
Right. And
so let me say it that way. It's nourishing your tissues, so your tissues don't go dry. Okay, your tissues should not go dry. Absolutely not.
Yeah. And because we at least I have been applying coconut oil or olive oil, whichever is this thing, mostly coconut oil, especially and it helps some of the joints and everything. It helps, like what you have suggested. Prior to taking a bath, and it just it actually helps in keeping the skin less dry, because as I am aging, I'm finding that my skin becomes a little more dry than it used to be.
Absolutely.
So
Yeah.
That is definitely, and to think that you can carry it over even when you travel, and it helps this way, it is definitely eye-opening.
Yeah. In addition to a lot of things, Radhika, I always in my hand baggage, I'll always have the fennel, coriander, cumin tea powder.
Yes.
And I will always have a small oil or moisturizer based thing, and continuously every 3 hours, Padma and I will be applying it. We'll be drinking hot water. We'll be drinking our hot spicy tea. So what happens is, a couple of things happen. The more you drink hot water with the spice tea, okay, the more number of times you have to urinate, which means if you're urinating a lot of times, it means your kidneys are functioning well. They're not going dry. It means your intestines are working well. It means your system is working very well. It means you are moistening your entire GI tract. Okay.
Yeah.
So which means then you are nourishing your internal organs as well. And then because you're applying oil in your outside on your skin, you're externally moistening your body as well. So the combination of internal and external oleation actually helps a lot. Okay,
Yes.
so
Yes.
not so that it prevents you from going dry, and wherever you alight, whether it is India, whether it's the West Coast or wherever your destination is, you'll feel less drier actually.
Right. And as far
of course,
as
one more point. So for every 2 or 3 glasses of tea that you take or hot water you take, what happens? You have to go to the bathroom, which means then you have to get up, which means you have to walk, which means you have to go to the bathroom, which means you are stretching as well. So even if you don't want to stand and be there in the far end of the plane, at least the fact that you're getting up each time to go to the bathroom helps for you to stretch between those prolonged sitting hours.
Correct. I agree with that. As far as the FCC tea is concerned, I've been having that, and it definitely helps it's helped in my digestion, as well as it's become a practice now. If I don't have it, I miss it. So that is definitely and it's become a habit now in the morning to just boil the with the FCC and have that during the day. I just and so that it's become a habit. So, and it's a good idea that you're suggesting, because normally what I do is I carry those ginger bites from Trader Joe's and suck on them, because they help in my digestion. Or when on the plane I have without ice. I specifically asked without ice, the ginger ale. And and it helps a little bit in settling my stomach and everything. So, but warm water is something I still have to get used to it. It is something I'm working towards. So it's work in progress.
Yeah,
because I know you have always advocated that, but it is just the thing of at least room temperature. I don't drink the cold water, but at least room temperature water is what especially in this hot climate. That is the thing that I right now prefer. But I'm slowly pushing myself towards at least drinking some lukewarm water and then bringing myself to drink the warm water. And so that is something I just wanted to share. But it's a good idea to carry the CFFT, and that's something I'm going to make a note in my travel equipment list.
Right.
So
then there's another thing with regard to the oil. So a lot of people complain that when the plane is taking off or when the plane is landing, in both the situations, some people experience nosebleeds, some people experience pain in the ears.
Yes.
Okay, and it's a very sharp pain in the ears that they experience either while the plane is landing or when the plane is taking off. Okay.
My grandson has has nosebleeds. So
some people have nosebleeds. Okay. So and you don't that indicates that there's a lot of problems or issues with the nasal orifice or with the ears. Okay. And one way to prevent that, because this can cause infections, by the way, because what happens is now you have a nosebleed or you have ear pain, and then you're sitting for a prolonged period of time in an airplane where there's dry air, pressurized chambers, okay, and you're constantly sitting, it can create, it's a very good how, I mean, there's a lot of infections going on even in the plane itself. You have bacteria, viruses, everything. So these areas now become a good target for infections. So you want to prevent that. So one way to do that is, and it's so interesting because people laugh at me when I say this, especially my students when I teach Ayurveda. So I always, before travel, I'll make sure that I add oil into my nose. Okay, and I think I talked about that during one of the sessions here. And I always add oil in my ears as well. Okay, and see, on your skin, you can always wipe out, when you have your bath or when you have a shower, we can wipe out. But the good thing about the nose and the ears is, because there's no place for it, it either gets slowly absorbed or it'll retain itself. So when the plane is about to take off, my nose and my ears still have a residual oil. Okay, so that's the reason why I no longer have earaches, I no longer have nosebleeds. And then just before landing, what I'll do is I'll go to the bathroom and I'll add that oil into my ears and nose again, a couple of hours prior to landing. Okay, so now when the plane lands, that when it comes down, I don't have those nosebleeds, I don't have the earaches. And when I mentioned this to a lot of people have started incorporating that. And people who experienced that in the past have told me now that they don't experience that at all. No earaches, no pain in the ears, no nosebleed, nothing. So one more reason why it's a good practice to sort of massage your nose and your eyes and ears.
Right. One thing I am definitely curious about, you said do not sleep like a daytime sleep or anything like that, but in my mind, it was more of, especially when I'm traveling to India, because it is nighttime over there, I thought I was training my mind to sleep during their nighttime, and it'll help me to, the circadian rhythm of the sleep will be more regulated. So that's not the case, you're saying?
No. So when you're sleep, so what happens is, the tendency is for people, whether let's say you land up in India.
Yeah.
Okay, you invariably, all the flights will land in India around 3 or 4 a.m. Early in the morning, right? You're all tired and you feel very fatigued and all that. So the tendency is for us to sleep in the daytime.
You mean in India?
In India.
Okay.
Now the same thing happens. No, the same thing happens here as well. Okay.
Yeah. No, I was talking about in the plane itself, that
No, no,
sleeping
no,
in.
no. I'm not talking about the plane.
Okay, maybe
In the plane, there's a concept of daytime or night time, because as the plane keeps moving, those times are altered. No, I'm saying that once you reach your destination, try to avoid sleeping in the daytime.
Okay, I understand.
That's why what happens is you're forced. I mean, I know my mother will keep on saying, why don't you take few hours of nap? Your eyes are red and all that. I'm saying, Amma, don't worry. I'll manage for another couple of hours and I'll hit the bed by 7 in the evening. It's a little too early, but still, it's not too late. So 7 in the evening, I'm trying to train the brain. And then by next day, third day or fourth day, my brain is perfectly all right. Now I can go to sleep at 9 and I don't feel jet lagged in the morning because I went sleep in the daytime.
Correct. And that makes sense. Yes, that is something, definitely I do that. And so that is, I mean, my mother-in-law, especially when you're mentioning stretches, especially, she's in 86 now. And when even 2 years ago when she was traveling, she makes sure that every hour she gets up and walks all through the aisle. She will walk up and down for about 10 minutes, and then she'll come back and sit down. So and she and she's very particular about that, especially she doesn't notice any fluid, this thing in the feet don't become very swollen or anything like that. So that is really a good thing. Absolutely. So so I would like to open it up. I know we don't have much attendance today, but I would like to open it up for any more questions or anything that the audience has. Okay, so looks like there aren't any questions today. Yeah. Okay. But let us, the thing is, this has given a lot of things to think about, especially to prepare before any long trip. And the one thing that I would like to ask is, in the airplane now, there's the option of watching movies or television shows, or keeping satellite thing. You can your phone, this thing you can keep up to date. What is your recommendation? What I do normally is I take my knitting along with me, and it helps to pass the time, because there is so much of 10 hours or so. So it helps, and then take a little bit of naps here and there. Do you think is that is a good idea to keep your mind a little bit not thinking too much or getting bored or anything like that?
So usually what I do is we always carry with us Sudoku. So that way we are training our brain. So we are doing those puzzles and the Sudoku instead of watching them. I mean, it depends, and each person has got their own interest. I mean, they're providing free entertainment. I don't want to stop everything. You can definitely watch movie or something. The only thing is, remember one thing, especially if it's a long travel to India, already you're feeling tired. Okay, and now if you watch a violent movie or something, it's going to create more tiredness. It's going to create more emotional outbursts, emotional tendencies. So that's the reason why I like to suggest that either watch something that is more funny or something humorous or something, in flights like Emirates and Qatar, I'm not sure about other flights, they even have some educational TV shows, which is really good. Okay, so I watch those because that is less stimulating to the brain. It's more exercising for the brain. When I'm not doing my Sudoku or when I'm not doing anything else, I watch those things. My suggestion more on those lines would be, do that, whatever you're doing, whether it's knitting. I mean, knitting is a great, I know Padma loves to stitch when she's in the plane. It's a great way to spend your time. But of course, after some time, you'll get tired of that also. So my suggestion is, whatever you do, sitting, for every 2 hours, try to stretch at least for 15-20 minutes.
Yes.
Doesn't matter what you do, whether you're watching TV, whether you're on your computer, on your laptop, whether you're listening to some songs, whether you're stitching, whether you're knitting, or whether if you're doing just watching the magazines that they provide, whatever you do, exactly around 1 to 1 hour and 45 minutes of sitting, go for a 15 minutes walk,
Makes
and then come back and then repeat those activities.
Correct.
It's very important.
Yeah, that definitely makes sense. And hydrating yourself and everything, that is definitely and the one thing that I will share is, especially when you're sitting like this for long periods of time, your normal tendency is, oh, let me just go and see what snacks they have, and so your suggestion of mindful eating also comes into play over here.
Absolutely.
So that is definitely a very, very important thing. I think Vijaya has a question. 1 second.
Yeah. What about bottle do you use to prevent oil leak? Oh, you know what? If you go to any these days, because of the travel restrictions and what you can carry on board and all that, most of the grocery stores, pharmacy stores will always carry. They have a separate section called the travel related section, and the travel related section, they have containers, empty containers that you can use. These are containers that are, you can travel with them easily. Security will not prevent you from taking them with you in your hand baggage. So those are all usually 8-ounce or less than 10-ounce containers. Okay, you can get both glass as well as plastic. Okay, glass is more rare to find, but plastic is what I know. Some people have an aversion for plastic, but this is not a permanent thing. The reason why they don't use glass is because security reasons. What if it cracks and all that? So plastic is what you'll normally find. These are hard plastic based bottles, 8-ounce, 6 to 8-ounce containers. Which are very tight. I mean, their lids are very secured. It doesn't leak. So try to get some of those. Or if you have a nearby container store is great because they have all kinds of containers, 8 ounces, 6 ounces, 10 ounces, both glass and plastic that you can carry with you. Those are really travels. I mean, they are travel safe. There's even in container stores, you have a travel safe or travel related section where you can go and buy these things. Very safe and very handy. And it doesn't occupy much space in the hand baggage as well.
Right. And, normally what I do is I just wrap like 2 or 3 plastic thing, with the rubber band or something to prevent the leaking. And then that way I can carry it.
You can do that as well.
Yeah. So before we complete the session, once more, is there any other question or any other tips that you would like to share? Or any experiences you've had with travel? Okay, so but we have some exciting news to share. Next in next session we will have one more topic that Ram will be addressing.
Yeah, so next month, this is what I thought, Radhika. What I'm doing is next month,
yes,
I'm taking one specific topic because next month will be our last. I'm hoping it's the last one. I'm going to basically summarize what we did the last 22.
Yes, that's what I was going to suggest.
It's going to be a summary of 22 sessions, and then it will be probably the end of our GLP talks for the
adults. And that's where exciting news comes into play is what we have. We have addressed the things for adults, and I know that there have been some inquiries about having these things catering towards the youth. So what we have is in November we will have a session that will focus on it will be a teaser section. Actually, it will be a teaser because what we are going to start is a series that will be curated by 2 of our young youth volunteers, and it will be moderated by Ram, Padma, and myself. And Ram will be taking the lead, and Padma will be taking the lead, and I will be offering my comments and everything on it. But it will be actually, coordinated by our youth volunteers, and it will address many of the youth topics. And November we will start that. And November we will be having like a teaser session. So if you have any questions or anything like that, please feel free so that to address it, what you would like our youth to incorporate into their lives. And this, let me also put it, it is more catered towards the preteens and the teens, because that is where they have some of the, our youth is focusing on. And so we will be addressing those. But if there are any questions for younger children, do let us know, and we will try and incorporate those as well in our sessions. So that is basically what exciting news we have to offer. More to come. But next session we will have it on our usual first Sunday. Correct, Ram?
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. So yes. So we will be doing that. So if you have any ideas or anything, suggestions on what we can do, we can also plan. We have a certain roadmap right now. But if you have anything specific, please do share it by email. And as always, that and in the news. And thank you very much for your support so far, and you're making it easier for us to make it happen. Do spread the word, and do support us, and encourage other people also to benefit from this wisdom. Ram is a fountain of wisdom, and we would like everyone to benefit from what he has to say. And these are simple tips that you can incorporate in your life. So please do that. Thank you very much. Thanks, Ram.
Thank you very much.
Thanks.